Ozark Season 4 episode review video. Before I get into that, though, pretty important, especially for this one, if you're not caught up to the point where I am and rewatching or watching Ozark, or you're just not entirely sure, then you definitely need to take the initiative and pay attention to the episode's title, which of course I'll mention, as well as put in the description for you if that happens to be the case. If you're not caught up, it would be my recommendation that you don't watch this video any further to avoid and potential spoilers. Again, major spoilers ahead. This will be Ozark Season 4, Episode 14, the series finale of Ozark. The title of this episode is called A Hard Way to Go. And this will be my review, reaction, recap after just finishing watching the episode for the second time. Ruth has buried Nelson where the pool is going. She has visions of Wyatt while doing this. And then Marty shows up and wants Ruth to help him get his kids back. Marty says if his kids get in the van to go to North Carolina, he's going to tell Camilla what really happened to Javi. That puts Ruth in a pretty tight situation. Marty talks to Camilla at his place. She asks him again about what happened the day her son died, and Marty has the same story. Ruth stops by to see Wendy at the hospital, as she had to see what was bullshit and what wasn't bullshit. And then Ruth makes Wendy promise if she helps get out the kids of the situation that they're in, that's it. There's nothing else that she has to do. Ruth goes to confront Nathan. He asks her what made Ben choose her, being a blonde and all. Nathan tells Ruth that Wendy was worse than Ben. Ruth realizes that Nathan doesn't really even want Jonah and Charlotte. He's just doing this to piss Wendy off. And then Nathan says Wendy was a slut and an embarrassment to the family. So Ruth points a gun at Nathan and says that Jonah and Charlotte can't come with him. And then Ruth threatens to shoot Nathan in the head. And she does fire a warning shot, which makes Jonah and Charlotte come in. And then Jonah and Charlotte go to visit Wendy. And Wendy tells the kids that it's her fault that Ben's dead. Even though Ruth, to a degree, blames herself because she's the one that insisted he get out of the mental hospital. And she also admits she was trying to control them in addition to Marty. So the kids decide to go back home where they belong, as long as they stay out of the money laundering business, which obviously won't happen. And then on the way back home, we see the accident scene that we had saw in a previous episode. Van flips over, I believe, 5 times, and yet nobody is seriously injured. Really? So that was thrown in there to make us believe somebody's hurt. I thought Wendy was definitely dead because of that, but she's okay. So when Marty pulls Wendy out of the what's left of the van, Charlotte really hugs Wendy, and they end up catching a taxi home. And then Navarro's his priest, or his name is Father Benitez, he tells Wendy it's unhealthy to be around so much death, and Wendy tells him it's an insurance that they'll make it out alive. Wendy just has a comeback for everything. So Marty goes to Ruth to ask if Nelson is in the bottom of her pool, because that's what Father Benitez had mentioned to them, that Nelson's missing. And Ruth, of course, doesn't really answer it and kind of like looks confused, like, ah, shit, he already knows. So Marty offers to give her a contact for a private investigator, and she could get a new identity. Ruth says she likes her name and wouldn't dare change it. Well, she doesn't say she wouldn't dare change it, but there's no chance Ruth's going to change her name to something else and be a different person. So Marty thanks her for getting Jonah and Charlotte back home. Yes, thank you, Ruth. That was awesome. And then Wendy and Marty go visit Omar Navarro, and he tells them that he believes his sister Camilla made the attempt on his life. Navarro gives them a piece of paper and call that number, and she'll get taken care of. Man, these families just want to off each other. He also thinks that Camilla killed Nelson, so Navarro wouldn't be a problem at this point. And then Navarro tells Marty he wants him to go back to Mexico. And then we see a scene with Ruth at her place, and she hallucinates all her family members. Russ Langmore, Cade, her father, Boyd, and Wyatt, who's, of course, on top of the trailer. all hanging out. Russ is singing with a guitar. Russ Langmore was a great character. I do miss him on the show, and he's made an appearance, I believe, in each season, even though he's been dead since season 1. I don't think we've seen Boyd since season 1, though. And Kate, of course, died in season 2, so that was cool. And then when Ruth is sitting on top of the trailer, thinking that she's talking to Wyatt, 3 comes up and asks who she's talking to, and he asks if she's talking to Wyatt, and Ruth does say yeah, and he's kind of like, yeah, I talked to him too, apparently. And then Ruth tells 3 he says why a pool, and Ruth says 3 doesn't know the first thing about being rich. You gotta have a pool, apparently. I don't know if that would be the first thing I would have. What, swimming pools are overrated, in my opinion. And then we see that Rachel is worried about still laundering money, even if it's FBI approved in this case. And then she's also bummed out that she has in fact killed a person, Nelson. And Ruth says he was a piece of shit. He murdered her dad and he killed Ben. And then there's a meeting of all the minds at the funeral home. Harry seems pretty happy. We have Agent Graves, Agent Clay, Jim, Camilla, Marty, Wendy, and then Rachel and Ruth show up. Ruth asks Harry if all the swinging dicks are there. He kind of hesitates and says, yes. Harry's he's an interesting character. He doesn't get much time, though. And then Ruth mentions that the last FBI agent that Rachel was working with fucked her up bad. And she says that's not cool. So Agent Clay offers an apology on behalf of the FBI. And that was Agent Petty, I believe. And that character was on The Walking Dead for a couple episodes in season 11. And he did phenomenal, by the way. His character wasn't really well liked on Ozark, but he was pretty good on The Walking Dead. But that's beside the point. And then everything goes according to plan. But Wendy tells Marty no celebrating yet. And then Wendy goes back to the motel and sees that Sam is actually going back to North Carolina with Nathan and Annalise. And then Wendy tells Schaefer when they're on the Missouri Belle, because the whole whatever it's called, the party essentially is going on, that she's told her people to pull those voting machines out of Wisconsin and Wisconsin and Michigan. And he says without him you don't stand a chance, and Wendy says she's well aware and she's already made other arrangements because Schaefer's kind of a dirtbag. And then we see Navarro being transferred. Jonah, who's at the party talking to Charlotte, says he's going to miss being close to Buddy. Man, Buddy was an awesome character. I didn't expect him to go so soon. I thought, okay, it's going to be this character that they have to live with and they can't stand him, and he's supposed to die, but he keeps living and living and living like a cockroach. But unfortunately, we lost Buddy in season 2. Buddy, awesome character on Ozark. And Ruth says that Jonah looks like a grown-ass man in that suit and says she has work for him. And he says, well, I'm going to kind of go legit, at least until I get out of high school. So that's good that Jonah has a plan. And then we see Claire, Marty, and Wendy. And then Camilla walks up and starts asking about what happened to her son. She goes on this, she asks Claire a bunch of questions. And then she says, for tonight only, you tell me what really happened to my son. If there's any details that you left out, tell me now, and nothing bad will happen to you. She kind of threatens her life. If I find out different, I think she said something about slitting her throat or something like that. I didn't actually write that down or type that down. And then Claire confesses and says it was Ruth Langmore and tells the whole story, at least of that, but doesn't mention that Marty and Wendy were there. So we are in a tight spot now. And then Camilla tells Marty and Wendy, you're close to that woman. If you go anywhere near her or tip her off at all, I'm going to kill you. And I believe she threatened the lives of Jonah and Charlotte as well. Or she just had her man stand by there. I can't remember. Her goon of sorts. So Claire apologizes to the birds. And then we see Wendy worrying and asks Marty, what the fuck are they going to do? Like, they're fucked. Ruth is in major trouble right now. And there's nothing they can do to tip her off. So Marty says anything that they try to do will be suicide. And then Ruth tells Rachel she thinks she's going to get out of there because she doesn't want to be there any longer for toast and that. And then we go back to the inmates. We have Officer Silva. He shoots the guard in the passenger seat after he gets out of the vehicle. and then uncuffs Navarro, tells him there's a car parked up the street that he can go in. He gives him a gun, and then Navarro kind of stops as he's walking away, like, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right. And the Officer Silva has his gun drawn. Navarro shoots the other gun, and it's got nothing in it. And then Officer Silva shoots Navarro twice. And Navarro we are led to believe, at least dead, and I'm pretty sure he's dead at this point. So he didn't really do much. In the grand scheme of things, these enemies like Dell and Navarro, they were intimidating, but they really didn't do much, and they died rather easy, in my opinion. And I miss Dell from season 1. God damn it, Darlene. Anyway, Ruth's driving back home, and she stops because she sees a vehicle parked in the middle of the road, and she finds out that it's Camilla. And then Ruth asks Camilla how she found out. She knows that Camilla knows, and Camilla says Claire Shaw told her, and Ruth says she's not sorry in Ruth fashion, and that her son was a murdering bitch, and now she knows where he got it from. And Camilla has her gun drawn on Ruth, and then Ruth says, well, are you gonna fucking do this shit or what? And then finally Camilla shoots and kills Ruth Langmore. I mean, I thought Ruth was gonna die in this series, but it kind of was like Breaking Bad to me, where like Ruth, in my opinion, was the Jesse Pinkman that had been around so much tragedy. Not necessarily Jesse so much, but Ruth for a good portion of the show, and that she would be okay in the end to be like living a good life, but that's not the case. And while this happens, while Ruth gets shot, Marty and Wendy are still entertaining guests at the Missouri Bell. They're performing, they're pretending like everything's okay, and then when they're on their way home, they're saddened. They know that Ruth's dead. If she's gonna be dead if she's not dead already, and they're just upset about what's transpired. So the birds get home, Marty, Wendy, Charlotte, and Jonah, and as they're in the house, they kind of zoom back, and you can see that the patio door is shattered, but yet Marty and Wendy are clueless to this. And then Wendy's in the kitchen as she comes forward to like the dining room table. Then we don't see Wendy go past where we can see her again, and then we see Marty all of a sudden turn and see like all the glass on the floor, and the door is shattered, and the camera zooms even further back, and we see that it's actually Mel Saddam sitting outside, and he apologizes for breaking the door, but he just needed to get the goat, the jar, the cookie jar that has Ben's ashes in it, and he says that all he could think about was you people. Then he started thinking about the cookie jar, and while it never has cookies in it, why does the kid have it, and why does it keep changing places between different people? And he's put all the pieces together. He knows that there's evidence in the jar. Their funeral parlor or funeral home is really shitty compared to nowadays, and like he can find teeth fragments and bone fragments out of that, I guess, I don't know, or bone evidence. And then Marty says, we can pay you. And he's like, I don't want your dirty money. And then when he's like, oh, it'll be clean, it'll be yours. The money doesn't know it's dirty. And then Mel Saddam says, you don't get it. You don't get to win. And then after he says that, all of a sudden it kind of pans back, and we see that Jonah and Charlotte are standing outside, and Jonah has a gun drawn at Mel Saddam. And then all of a sudden the screen fades to black, and then we hear a shot, and we don't know what happens. We don't hear glass break, so the jar doesn't necessarily break, but we're led to believe that Jonah has killed Mel, and that everybody survived on the birds. Like, in my opinion, that Wendy Bird was the Walter White of this series, and she certainly deserved to die, were Ruth and Marty. Marty more so was the Jesse Pinkman. I hate to compare this show to Breaking Bad, but that's what it's like, and I did not expect the birds all to survive, but it ends. That's what you see. You hear the shot, and the screen's already faded to black, and then the credits roll. So I'm assuming that this show eventually will come back someday. Not sure when, but I'm guessing at some point they will bring Ozark back, because that ending was just, it had a lot of things still going on. I mean, the birds essentially were getting out of things, and they were going to move back to Chicago, but they hadn't yet. And now you have a 15-year-old boy presumably shoot a former cop. Well, actually, I think he's actually a cop now because he got his back on because of the birds. So very confusing. I mean, it sucks that Ruth had to be the casualty out of all this, because I didn't really like Ruth's character, but I think she deserved to have a better ending than that, because she was like happy and like things were looking really up for Ruth. She was going to be doing illegal shit, but the FBI was on board with it, so there's really no way to get in trouble for that. Very confusing ending. I know a lot of you are not happy with this ending, and I'm not super upset about it, but I feel a little bit let down. I mean, they showed us that scene, the vehicle crashing, and that turned out to be nothing. Nothing happened. That's just stupid. So, I mean, it was a good show. It had comparisons to Breaking Bad, but in the end, Ozark just wasn't as good as Breaking Bad. They had some great episodes, but this finale, it's not one of the worst episodes ever of finales, but it's certainly not Breaking Bad style. It's not Lost style. Yes, I defend the Lost finale. I think the Lost finale is fucking amazing. If you don't think that, then you didn't understand what happened. So, as far as my score of the series finale of Ozark, I'm going to score it a 7.5 out of 10, because I think there were a lot of good moments, especially with Ruth seeing, Russ, Cade, Boyd, Wyatt, talking to Three, having her conversations with Rachel, having her funny moment about swinging dicks with that she said to Harry and all that. So Ruth Langmore is the character of the episode. She was a good character on Ozark. Annoying, but good. I liked her managing the strip club a lot better. I think that was more of a intent. Well, it just had more to it, I think, than the whole casino thing. I don't know, just my opinion. So I've rambled long enough. 17 minutes. You've heard what I have to say. Now, of course, it's your turn. If you're a fan of Ozark or any other show that I like to cover, like The Walking Dead, Dexter New Blood, Lost, Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, Better Call Saul, or live UFC fight reactions, or if you just want to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, which I really need help with because the channel, since Dexter New Blood ended, it's kind of fallen off, make sure you smash that like button. I would appreciate it. Share the video with whomever you want. If you want to put it on your social media platform, great. That'd be awesome. Don't forget to sound off in the comment section about where your thoughts are on the finale of Ozark or Ozark as a whole. I will be doing a Ozark character ranking. I'm not sure how many I'll do, but probably top 10, maybe top 15 if I can think of 15, and then like least favorite characters on Ozark, and I'll probably rank the seasons of Ozark. I may have to watch the first two again just to, well, no, I probably won't, but I'll do a seasons ranking of Ozark. But sound off about your thoughts are, score the episode whatever you want out of 10, and of course make sure you give me your character of the episode. And last but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button, subscribe to the channel, you're watching the video anyway, join the team, share damn support, and be a part of something special, and JDev will return. And hopefully Ozark will too.